Hey all, Tony Bing here. Hello and welcome to my Pulsar Cascade build for Nova. Now in this series of videos we will be looking at different endgame builds that I've been playing around with on heroes and I had a lot of fun with. So this particular one is an absolute heap of fun. As you can probably see on screen, zipping about the screen, it's just absolutely great. I really do like it a lot. Now in this video what we will cover, and there will actually be timestamps to each of these sections in the description if you want to jump to any particular part, but what we cover include skills, talents, synergies. We look at the first 100 infinity point allocation, we then look at the general gearing for the build, and we finish up with some gameplay as well to show off the build. But first up, what we'll actually do here is we will check out the skills. So skill wise here we do have a pretty manic fast rotation, but despite that it's still nice and easy to use. Now we lock onto targets whenever we can because we'll constantly be moving when we're using the Cascade and Bolt skill. It's the only skill in the game that I'm aware of you can actually move and fire at the same time, and it's fantastic, and it also makes me very excited for Green Goblin and his glider powers. I imagine they will have the same mechanic, but for this particular skill, as mentioned, lock on, hold down your X button to start firing it off. You actually have a damage bonus of 13% after detonating a pulsar with a power, and you'll be doing that all the time. Now the next skill we have is our first cooldown skill, so I like to start off with this. So it's Fallen Star. You'll jump in, you will restore 50% of your Nova shield, and this is one of the main reasons I take it, just really for survivability, but it actually offers weaken and a dot, which is really the icing on the cake as well there. Now when we're in range we then fire off Nova Flare, so it's a nice damage packet and it makes the enemy vulnerable for damage received from pulsar powers, again something we'll get to in just a moment. So we look at the pulsars and there is 3 of them. The first one we fire off is Super Massive Pulsar, so this will provide vulnerability and it's just a flat damage packet. We then follow up with Magneton Pulsar. This provides a dot as well as a slow, and then finally you have Unstable Pulsar. So this is just a damage pulsar and it actually gains 3 charges on a low 4-second cooldown, so you will be firing this off often. Now if we move down to the signature we have Gravimetric Surge. This is a fantastic skill that really helps us define the build as well. So with this you'll fire it off and you do a large damage packet at the end of the animation of it, which lasts a few seconds. The very important part of this is your other powers have no cooldown or Nova Force costs. So for that reason, when this buff is up, it is a 5-second duration. You want to fire off your hardest hitting skill, which is actually Super Massive Pulsar. So normally the hardest hitting skills aren't vulnerability, but because this has a longer cooldown it makes it more powerful than some of your other pulsar skills. But we'll go all the way back to the signature once more. Now on top of the no cost and no cooldown and powers, you gain a whopping 10 speed and 10 energy, which is incredible. You gain 50 movement speed and the cooldown is 35 seconds. Now through talents we have it so we can reduce the cooldown in this when we actually use skills that have a cooldown. So doing that and timing it, I was getting roughly about 20-22 seconds on this, so you're looking at a 25% uptime on that huge buff and your powers not having a cooldown or Nova Force cost, which is really insane, and you will see that once we get to the gameplay section of the video. But the next section we're going to look at anyway will be the talents. For this first talent line here we don't actually have anything that really shines very much for the build we're using. The best option I can see would be Cosmic Shockwave, because this will give a damage power buff of 25% to Fallen Star because it's a movement power, and we also do dash around often, so you will occasionally get the explosion, which you can see there with the area tag and the 6-second cooldown as well. Now talent line number 2, things thankfully start to get a lot better. So with this, when you detonate a pulsar with a power, you gain 60% of the pulsar's Nova Force cost back, and on top of that you have a buff where pulsar power damage goes up by 4%, and that stacks 5 times, so that would be a 20% buff you'd be getting total there. we then have Pulsar Field. So when you use a Pulsar power, fire a second Pulsar of the same type at a nearby random location. This is the best one to go for in this line. We then have Pulsar Proximity Control. So pulsars now detonate instantly, and the very important thing with this is it does count as detonating a pulsar. So when we looked at some of the other skills and talents, one of the prerequisites of it was after detonating a pulsar, but simply firing one off and having it explode straight away counts as detonating it, so that's very important. Now the final talent, this one's fantastic, it's gravimetric acceleration. So you reduce the cooldown of your signature gravimetric surge by 1 second when you use a cooldown power, and we'll be spamming them off all the time. So as mentioned, you will look to get your signature into the region of around about 22 seconds, and that's without the signature reduction you can get on cosmic artifacts as well. So if you get that, then you're really going to be jamming there. But next up, what we'll do is have a look at the synergies. For the synergies then, we will cover our primary attribute first, so that would be speed and energy, and we get that from both Angela and Gambit. You then have your more standard synergies that I like to use, and you can see Blade there, you can see Hawkeye, Hulk, She-Hulk, and also Squirrel Girl. They're nice generic ones that can work on a lot of characters. You then have some synergies that are based around the energy and range side of things. So that's Captain Marvel and Cyclops. Iron Man is perfect for us because he offers range damage and energy damage as well there. But with that covered, let's now have a look at the infinity point allocation, and what we'll do is look at where I would put the first 100 points. So for the first time here with these guides, I actually have a bit of a split in how I allocate the infinity points. So what I've done is I've put 50 points into the Mind Gem and my old trusty Deep Thought, and that provides me with 125 Nova Force. So that gives me the first tier of the Mastery. But on top of that, that extra 125 Nova Force, I find with the way regeneration works on it, it keeps me topped up so that I don't have any issues at all. I've not found any value in actually going any higher than that, and that's why I have split it. Now, I have split it into the Time Gem and Temporal Loophole. That provides movement speed and attack speed, and that fits in perfectly with the theme of the build, with it being Nova and dashing all over the screen, and also the attack speed does help out on our main spender that we're holding down all the time there. But what we'll do next here is we'll have a look at the gearing priority for this build. For this section here then, what we do is we look at the general gearing that can work for this build. Now the reason I don't spell out specific items is because these can change through time, and I don't want this video to be out of date because of listed items that are then replaced with new best in slot items. But the way this should work is if I give you general gearing hints, you can then apply it for any item or artifact you're looking at for them. Now with a character, I always start off with the legendary, because we then build round that. What we don't have in the legendary, we'll look for in other slots. Now, the Cosmic Control Rod is fantastic. It has 1200 energy damage rating, it has 1500 critical hit rating to energy powers, it has 2000 health, it actually has 200 Nova Force. Now, if we tie back into the first 100 infinity points, I don't have the Cosmic Control Rod leveled, so I had to get some Nova Force from the Infinity system. But if you can get to rank 4 with this, you can then take the points out of the Mind Gem and Nova Force and put them into another node as well, possibly the speed one, because then we can get them moving even faster, which is even more fun. But you also have the rank 5 proc on it as well. Now the important part of this is the fact that it does have critical hit rating to energy powers, which is all of our powers. So with this, you can then concentrate on Brutal Strike and attributes on your slots 1 to 5 and on your artifacts as well. Now if we look at the relic, the vast majority of our skills do have the actual range tag, so that's why we're using the Relic of Xandar. Now I don't have the particular medallion to show off, unfortunately, but I have found out from my Gambit video and a comment by Jaden Strada, thank you for this Jaden, that the Mega Sentinel medallion is fantastic on energy characters, and it really is brilliant. So if possible, you want to get the Mega Sentinel medallion, and fail that, the Mandarin medallion can work out great as well there. With the general gearing covered, what we'll do next is we've got some gameplay to finish up the video. Now, a question that's come up a few times over these videos is I see some people asking me why I'm playing certain difficulties for this final gameplay video. Now, the purpose of this final gameplay video is not to show the character in best in slot gear, because if I was to spend time leveling the legendaries and getting best in slot on every single hero guide I'd done, I would only be able to get about one guide done a week, and I'm sure none of you want that. You probably far prefer to see me pumping out 2 or 3 these a day, and then it means I can concentrate on other videos the quicker I get these done as well. So with the gameplay videos, what I will do is I will show off mainly the rotation, how the build actually works, and I'll do it in a difficulty that matches the current gear that I have on the character so I can get through it in a timely manner. There would be no point in me doing a cosmic run and it taking 15 minutes. It would be boring to watch me do that. But the actual gameplay video we've got to show off here, I went for a bit of a different one to show off the mobility on Nova and how great it works in bosses. So we went for the Times Square operation where we face off against Ultron and his sentries as well, so it should be good fun. But as always, I hope this video was useful. If there's any questions or anything else, feel free to ask, and I will see you all again soon.
No can do. Where that came from. I'll kick all your butts myself. I'm a professional. No can do.